Hello, Meoni here and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV. This time I want to talk about the news that Ishgard is seeing some serious love in 5.0 Shadowbringers next summer. At the Las Vegas Fan Festival this year, during the keynote broadcast around the world, game director Naoki Yoshida revealed information on the future of the game, and with that information was a specific nugget revolving around crafting and gathering endgame content, specifically that they are implementing content designed for crafters and gatherers to actively contribute towards the rebuilding of the Holy See of Ishgard City back to its glory days, presumably to how it looked before the Dragon Song War. During the keynote it was described as rewarding endgame content, where it was hinted directly that if players worked together on this rebuilding effort, there would even be the likelihood and possibility of player housing located in Ishgard itself, which has been a long-awaited feature that people have requested ever since Heavensward. They also mentioned how there would even be plans for user-controlled farms, which they didn't go into further detail, and they'll probably deliver more information on that in future live letters. However, the prospect of rebuilding Ishgard, with the eventual reward being housing unlocked, really gets my appetite going, as I'm sure a lot of you watching this now also share. The most direct comparison to this development would be from 14's own Domain Reconstruction efforts and storyline, where we actively took part in a weekly donation incentive, unlocking more chapters of that storyline and cutscenes each week in between patches that shaped and eventually changed the area around the Domain Enclave itself. Schools were built, rice paddies were planted and harvested, towers repurposed into lighthouses, the rebuilding of a barracks to train new guards for the area, you name it, the Enclave had it. And the way it developed staggered over time made the whole thing feel pretty epic in my opinion. Now if you were to draw that comparison and take away donations and replace that same technology with, say, turning in certain collectible rating crafts or gathered items, you would most likely see the picture they're probably going to go with. Much like that of a custom deliveries NPC or the Namazu gathering and crafting dailies. Of course, there is still very little confirmed, if anything, at this point, and it's all speculation, but I would imagine that the eventual contribution of others, i.e. those who do craft and gather, would unlock housing for everyone at a set time after the release of 5.0. For example, it would tie perfectly into their usual release of housing a patch or so after the release of the main game, to give players time to level their combat rolls up to maximum and finish the storyline up to that point, giving gathering and crafting centered players something to do prior to the housing area being unveiled, because as we know, releasing housing on the first week of an expansion's launch is a terrible idea because of server instabilities a lot of people have lost out in the past. It's an ambitious idea, but I do love the notion of giving a lore reason in-game for the rebuilding of the Holy See. The idea that carpenters would be making beams for structures or scaffolding, blacksmiths would be smelting rivets and struts to support structures, weavers would be creating insulation or probably creating covered tarpaulins for market stalls. It would all very much add to the feel of the city, especially if they're going to make it so you can live there. And giving certain players the satisfaction of contributing towards its growth is something that I think would get a lot of people very immersed and maybe introduce a lot of new players into the crafting and gathering subclasses that wouldn't ordinarily do so. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to how much of the content is locked behind crafting and gathering. You could argue that at least with the Domain Reconstruction efforts, everyone got to contribute, and whilst that's a valid argument, it remains to be seen how this shapes up and what content actually becomes sub-role exclusive and how much is actually accessible by everyone. Either way, let me know what you think about the Ishgard Reconstruction efforts, whether you are pleased that gathering and crafting finally has a role in endgame, or if you don't do either of those, do you feel left out? Thank you kindly for watching, and I'll see you all next time.